girls.
I know. Another one tomorrow night too.
3 in a row.
All right.
3 Charles.
I know. Too many, huh? Too many, huh? I'd like to call the Newman City Council regular meeting of July 25th, 2000 to order. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, God, for bringing us here safely tonight. Please give us the guidance and the wisdom to make the right decisions for our community. In this we pray. Amen. Amen. May we have a roll call, please? Present. Present.
Present.
Present. Item number 5, these are communications from the staff. Is there anything tonight? Just one item. Our police chief had a meeting, was able to be here. He may, don't see him anyway yet, he may make it later. He asked me just to let the council know of the road closure, street closure on Saturday evening. I'm sure everyone is familiar with it. It's for the theater event that will be closed starting at approximately 5 o'clock between Tulare and Fresno, and will last until that event ends later that night. I believe the lighting takes place at about 9:30, so sometime after that. That's the only thing I have. Any other items? No. Okay. Item number 6, these are items from the public. These are non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Are there any non-agenda items tonight from the public? Anything that you'd like to discuss? Sure. Come on up. Yeah, if you could state your name and address for the record as well.
Oh, yeah. Mayor, fellow city council members, fellow Newman residents.
If you could hold up that mic a little bit, that way they could hear you at home.
Fellow city council members and Newman residents. My name is George Duggan. I live at 605 Sweet Gum. Mm-hmm. And I would like Kaufman and Broad homeowners to address the city council at one of the next meetings.
Okay.
We have some problems with our warranty claims, and we'd like some homeowners to address you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, one of the things, we are familiar. We've had an opportunity to see some of the meetings that have happened in Patterson, and we've heard, what's been going on over there. And we would, the city manager and I spoke about it. We would be more than happy to have our staff look into it, get in contact with the homeowners, and work with you and see what we can do to work together on this.
Great. Thanks for the support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there anybody else from the audience want to? Okay. Next item is items from the public. These are agenda items, and any member of the audience desiring to address the council on a matter on the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor and the council grants a longer period of time. Item number 7, these are public hearings. 7A is a Williamson Act cancellation to adopt resolution number 2000. Bob? Oh. How long is this going to be, Bob? This particular item?
If you have more pressing items, I will take a seat.
Well, why don't we go ahead and do this, because we know there's plenty of people here tonight on item 9C, and I know there's a lot of youngsters here. We don't want to keep them up past their bedtime. So if the council wouldn't mind if
and I was kind of hoping I'd find out how this turned out.
Okay. And if the council wouldn't object, I'd like to the suggestion of Councilmember Reed, if we could move up 9C to review and approve plans and costs for construction of a skate park at Lions Park. Is there any objection?
No objection.
Okay.
No objection.
Steve.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an item that we're
I guess, kind of excited to bring to you tonight. I'm hoping that this is somewhat kind of a solution that we found to a problem that I understand has been going on long before I even got here, and I've been here for 2 years now. So we're hoping that this is something that is acceptable, that can work into somewhat of an interim solution at this time, and eventually hopefully work into a permanent solution as far as providing a skateboard park for the citizens here and the youth in our community. This report has gone to the Recreation Commission, was reviewed for them, and was unanimously approved by the Recreation Commission. If I can, I'd like to briefly go over the details of this for those of you who may not be familiar with what we're looking at. The location that we are recommending is at Lions Park, which is located adjacent to the swimming pool, just on the north side of the swimming pool. If you're looking at your map here, this is the bottom end of your map that you look at, where the shaded area is. That is the location of the skateboard park, and it would back up almost all the way to the swimming pool wall. So it's right in that corner next to Hardin Road, right next to the fence going down Hardin Road, and backed up in the what would be the south corner of that park. Everyone understand that location? No? Okay, here's Hardin Road.
Right.
Here's the sidewalk on Hardin Road.
Right.
This is the parking area.
The pool is out here, right?
The pool is right here. This is the wall of the back wall of the pool. It's actually, but right here is the back wall of the pool. This is an open area that looks over towards the pool.
Right.
There's those 2 trees in the corner. There's the gate.
And this is the Simon Newman building here?
No, this is the pool, the wall of the pool.
Oh, okay.
The
We're all
dressing
down there.
room
All
of
right,
the
so
pool.
we're up there.
Simon Newman will be over here even
Okay.
farther. Okay. Louis Newman, excuse me. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I said that too.
Okay. So what we have proposed is this would be a concrete slab located in that corner. It is approximately 40 by 50. In addition to that, next to that, you can see the square marked skate ramp, marked as 20 by 30. That is to be a half pipe. And if any of you need an explanation of that, I would ask someone else to explain that. That probably knows it better than me. I know sort of what it is, so I think all of you probably do also. But that would be a wooden structure that will be constructed and located next to that. You can see it's proposed to be concrete going over to the edge of that. The purpose here is to try and have that area, which would be for the more advanced skaters, and also the concrete area, which will have some structures on it for less advanced skaters. It is proposed that there will be, besides just the open area, there will be 2 or 3 features, depending on the cost, wooden structures that will also be constructed on there. It's proposed that there will be a pyramid, and then maybe 1 or 2 other structures that will still determine what will be best for that. You'll notice that we've put a half circle or a quarter circle around the 2 trees in the corner. That is to keep those would remain there. That area is proposed to be ramped up, if you will, a little bit, to provide another feature going around those trees that they can ramp up on and come off of. A couple of things that need to happen to make this work. Number 1 is, you can see where it says playground equipment to be relocated. That is on the edge of the structure. I didn't draw it on this map, but if you look at the tree right above that, the playground structure would be moved right to the north of that tree, so right above that tree. That tree will remain in place, and the playground structure will go right above that in that area. Just to let you know, if some of you have gone by that park lately, that process of moving that playground, I went ahead and authorized that to go ahead because of the fact that I had an Eagle Scout who was wanting to do an Eagle Scout project to volunteer some of the work to do it. So I went ahead and proceeded to move that. There were some things that needed to be done to that playground equipment to meet some of the guidelines of our recent playground audit. So I went ahead and began that process to have that moved. It'll basically go back in and serve the same purpose that it has in the past. With that, I don't have a lot more to add. I know there's a lot of supporters of this. I've worked very closely with Mr. Craig Braswell, and I want to thank him for the help that he's given me in getting this put together. We hope to get a lot more help and support from them as we move through this process. We haven't determined the full amount, that we would do, etc., but we hope that possibly the half pipe and some of the other wooden structures, we can use a lot of volunteer labor to construct those. There's also been talk about possibly being able to get some of the other materials donated, possibly some of the concrete and some of those things that will cut down on the cost. Attached to this report, you also have a proposed cost to complete this, and that comes out to $17,400. And Recreation Commission recommended to the council that they approve that amount. It is my recommendation that, as is stated in the report, that this money, we have $5,000 that we had initially budgeted and has been carried over. It's my recommendation that the additional amount be taken from the money that was given to us from the county as part of the Tatarix settlement, the $40,000 that we have received. We have that now. With that, I'm open to answer any questions and listen to any others that might have a response from the audience.
Thank you, Cleve. Are there any questions up here for Cleve?
How far is it approximately from the ramp here over to the outfield fence of the ball field?
Oh, it will be,
quite a ways.
gosh,
Over 10 feet?
oh yes, much more. It's probably 100 feet. It's
It
a long
didn't show it in there.
Right, yeah. We didn't go, I should have given you the other map, which would have shown, this is the first swing set. There is a second swing set before you get to the fence. And so the fence actually goes all the way down along here. The fence isn't like this. The fence actually will go after this swing set that is located
It's all the
something
way out
like
that
this.
far. Okay.
Then there's the fence going straight down that way. So it's
Okay.
quite a ways over.
I noticed there's a 3-foot wide access gate too. Is that, the fence is existing now, isn't it?
Yes.
And then,
There's an existing gate also.
oh, in this location?
Yeah, that gate is
okay.
there. So they could come off the sidewalk through the gate and directly onto this concrete area.
Okay. Is that gate sometimes locked or?
No.
No, okay. It's just,
But it could be if if need be. Well, one of the other factors that I didn't bring up is we are going to look at a way to actually fence and lock the half pipe, because that is a structure that we wouldn't want small kids playing on. And so that particular structure will be fenced in. We haven't figured out exactly how. There's a couple of ways we can do it, but that would be fenced in. It is proposed that the concreted area would remain open unless it's determined that there are significant problems at nighttime or whatever that cause us to say that we need to close it at 10 o'clock or at dusk or whenever we decide to do that. But currently, our plan is to leave that area open.
Any other questions and as Cleve mentioned, we'll be looking for as many volunteers as we can get. I put in a call to one of the firms for concrete to see what we can get donated, and if there are any people up here, if anybody up here, can get any type of volunteerism or anything like that, that would be great to lower the cost. Which actually this works out really well. The fact that we own the property, and two, you look throughout this county with some of these other places that have been building skate parks have been $50,000 and $60,000. And so the fact that we've already got, or more, and the fact that we've already got almost a third of it already been budgeted for the last couple of years, to be able to have this kind of cost on something like this is pretty good.
The staff will be coming up with codes of conduct, equipment required, hours of operation.
Yeah, there will be all those rules will be proposed there. We're going to review it a little bit. We may need to propose some additional lighting out there just to make sure that it's lit well at night for the police as they go through the area, can see it and make sure there's no problems there. But
and the thing about the lighting already, since we've got the ball field right there, we've already got the lighting that faces to the west from some of those poles, and they've got the electrical already. So there may be the possibility to be able to face some lighting already that faces in the easterly direction.
there's one light that's already existing located right on the back of the pool building.
Right.
that's an emergency light that has just not too long ago been put in. So we're going to review that and see how well that lights the area. It may be necessary to add some to that, but there is lighting in that area. So,
Before I open it up and ask if there's anybody from the audience who has any questions, I'm not sure if you could either do it tonight or at our next meeting after we go ahead and, if we're going to approve this. At what point are we going to come back with a timeline? That way we could let people know where we're at, when we're going to need the volunteers, when we're going to need to do certain things. That way people can get an idea.
yeah, I don't have that ready tonight, but I
Right.
can bring that back. Couple of things. We do need to get some specs on some of the concrete and probably look at a brief drawing done. I have a couple of recommendations on some people that can do that for us. And what I thought I would do is invite them over, see if that person could come over for one meeting, schedule it with the skateboarders in the community, and have them provide some input into the actual design, how it comes out. So that'll be something that I hope to do within the next, probably during the month of August, and then, you know, hopefully we can get it done this fall. real
You get the
soon.
rules written up so that we can have input from the audience, and
Sure. Okay.
So,
because I know there'll be input.
right. So we could have a preliminary timeline sometime in August.
Sure, probably your
Second
meeting in August, if that's all right, yeah.
Second meeting in August. Plus the other thing too, the kids will be going back to school already, getting near that time anyway, so chances are we'll get a lot more input once the kids get back into school anyway. Okay. Are there any other questions? Was there anybody in the audience who wanted to address this issue? No? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions then, can we have some direction on this item?
Well, anybody in the audience want to volunteer?
There, see. Yeah, thank you.
I think we're going to find that there's going to be a lot of people. I know that, you know, we've been talking about this skate park for years, and I know we've tried we've tried to find several solutions that didn't quite work, and I think this one is our best alternative. So anyway, with that, can we have some direction on this item?
Make a motion, we approve plans and costs for construction of a skateboard park at Lions Park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. All right, we'll go back to item number 7. These are the public hearings. This is 7A to Williamson Act cancellation. Adopt resolution number 2000, next number. Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I have a couple of projects on tonight's agenda that are a little bit complex. I'll just let everybody. Maybe the best way to explain this would be to rely on a little graphic here.
All right.
And I'll try to make my presentation brief. What we've been doing in the past...
Well, I was just going to suggest that if it's easier for you, take the mic off of there and keep those things up there, and you could point to them that way. It's kind of awkward for you to have to hold them up like
Well, I
that.
think we can do it this way.
Very talented. Okay.
Besides, it's on my right side.
All right.
There you go.
Curtis just wants to get in the picture. I'm sorry, Curtis. We've been proving this area in green are areas that we've been annexing to the city over the past year and a half. This is the Sherman Ranch project here. This is the Hearthstone project, which we'll be dealing with in a few minutes. We have the Lucas Ranch project here. This is the South Newman annexation that we dealt with. And we have the Stevens Ranch annexation. Most of these properties, Lucas, Stevens, the Sherman Ranch, and the Hearthstone, which we'll be dealing with in the coming few minutes, have had Williamson Act contracts on it. These are agricultural preserves and Williamson Act Land Conservation Act contracts. And what these contracts are, for the benefit of the audience, I know that the council members have been briefed on this on numerous annexation questions. These are reduced tax programs that allow farmers to be taxed on the value of their land and not on the speculative value of their land. We have been processing these annexations, and most of the Williamson acts were protested because they were within 1 mile of the city limits, and those protests were upheld under various provisions of state law, with the exception of one almost 21 acres, 20.8 acre piece, this piece right here. And under that particular Williamson Act contract, the contract cancellation was not upheld by LAFCO, and therefore it didn't automatically cancel or terminate upon our annexation of the lands. So what we need to do, and you have diagrams in your packet that shows where the parcel is and what's proposed on it. Most of the parcel, or at least 50% of it, is in public space, either streets and roads, parks and recreation facilities and drainage facilities. A portion of it, about a third, is for development. It would be a multifamily or moderate density development. I'm going to put this down, Curtis. So. So, under the state law, what we need to do is establish the value of the cancellation fee. And of course, if a person cancels the contract, they've been receiving tax benefits supposedly from this over the years. So there's a fee that has to be paid. And we did a referral and got an estimate in a previous action of the council where we established a possible fee for cancellation of this based on the speculative value of the land, not the agricultural value, but the development value. And it amounts to over $400,000 in penalties that these people are going to have to pay. And the applicants, the landowners, have to pay that penalty to cancel the contract. This is a contract between essentially us, because we've inherited the contract, and the property owner. And the third party in this whole process, of course, is the state of California. And they're the ones that will be the beneficiary of these fees, these cancellation fees down the road, because they've been paying this county of Stanislaus all these years for these reduced taxes. So I'm making a short story very long, but I just thought it might be a good idea to make sure that you understand what we're doing here. And it is kind of a unique situation because for some reason administratively our cancellation protest wasn't upheld, and so we need to go through this process. We have essentially a 20-acre island of Williamson Act land conservation land in the middle of urban development. It's there's property to the north of this that's in Williamson Act, but all the contracts are immediately contiguous to it, and all the contracts south of it have been canceled. So this is just a little tiny island of 20.8 acres sitting there in the middle of the urban expansion area for the city of Newman. The action for the council is to approve the cancellation, and I prepared a resolution, if I haven't lost it, that details, and I in your staff report I've attached a copy of the cancellation request. I've also attached an environmental document. We feel that this project has been studied under environmental laws extensively, both from the standpoint of the general plan, general plan EIR, subsequent environmental studies that were done as part of the Sherman Ranch project itself, and so we felt that Section 15162 of CEQA guidelines gives us the authority to not have to make any further subsequent or further environmental determinations under this particular action. We've attached the findings for 15162 as part of your resolution, and the resolution itself contains two attachments. One of them is the 15162 CEQA determinations, and the second one is Attachment A, which is the findings. Now, canceling a Williamson Act contract involves two processes. One of them is that they have to pay the fees based on this process that we've gone through, and the second one is that we have to make sure that the cancellation of the contract can be found to be in the public interest or justified in some other form consistent with the law. And what we've attached is Section A, which has been prepared by the legal staff that addresses the legal issues with respect to public interest and the cancellation findings mandatory for terminating Williamson Act contracts. The action before you is to, if you wish to proceed with the cancellation of the contract, and the resolution, the moving of this resolution would do the job. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Are there any questions for Bob up here?
We went through this.
Yeah, I'm open. Any questions at this time?
I'll hold my
All right, this is a public hearing, so at this time I will open up the public hearing. Ask if there are any comments from the public.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my name is George Petrolakis, a partner with the law firm of Petrolakis, Jensen, and Friedrich in Modesto. I'm here representing the applicant and really only intend to serve as an additional resource in your deliberations on this matter tonight. My presentation will be very brief. We are certainly in agreement with the staff report that cancellation is justified on this parcel, sort of a remnant parcel, where a lot of the other protests in the area, most of them were early enough that it was very easy for the city to protest them and thus protect its ability for development and economic development in the future. This contract was entered into and the protest was not upheld, so cancellation is appropriate. It is surrounded by areas that will be developed in urban development. The parcel itself serves some very important needs that are outlined in the findings you have probably reviewed in your packet. Almost half of it, well, about 42% of it, stays in open space as parkland for the city and sort of addresses a need in the city of Newman for parkland. So we certainly believe that cancellation is appropriate in this case. Cancellation really serves as a safety valve for cities in areas like this where growth has been anticipated, and we think you ought to avail yourselves of that option tonight. As you've heard, the developer pays a great penalty for this, and that certainly will be paid. The findings in your staff report we have reviewed, and they certainly are thorough and really are based upon facts produced by us, produced by your staff, and many of them are found in your general plan documents, including your general plan itself, the general plan EIR, and the general plan background report upon which the city relies for development in areas such as this. We certainly believe that cancellation is found to be in the public interest in this case, with all of the sub-findings outlined in the staff report and attachment. So that's really all we have. I'll be happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability, but that's all we have unless you have any particular questions.
Any questions for Mr. Petrolakis? No? No? Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from the public on this matter? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Bring it back to the council for further questions and comments. Any? Dave? No? Okay, seeing no comments or questions, for the benefit of the audience here, this project has been very thorough. We've gotten probably as much information as anybody's ever gotten on any of these developments, and so we move forward with this project very confident that this is going to be good for the city. So if there are no other comments or questions, can we have some direction on this resolution?
I move that we approve Newman City Council Resolution 2000 X number, a resolution of canceling Williamson Act contract number 76-2227.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent.
I'd just like to thank Bob Borchard for the excellent job he's done on this.
Well, I had a lot of excellent help, so thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Item 7B, this is a Hearthstone Ranch subdivision general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, pre-zoning and annexation, item 1. This is approved finding that no significant adverse environmental impact is expected to result from the project implementation and that a negative declaration is to be filed for the project in accordance with CEQA. Bob?
I wish I could bring you something simple tonight, but this is the most complex project I think that you've worked on to date. This is a continuation of the Sherman Ranch project. It involves a major piece of our circulation system for the new millennium, the Sherman Parkway, which will collect most of the development on the north side, support most of the development on the north side of the city, probably through the next 20 years. The project itself involves a general plan amendment, a specific plan or an addendum to our neighborhood specific plan. It involves a pre-zoning. It also involves the city acting on a subdivision map, which the city council has acted on, or the planning commission has acted on already, conditioned upon the council approving the rest of the entitlements. And it also involves a referral to the Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO, for annexation. What I've done is prepare a staff report to try to deal with each one of these items in order, and I've also prepared resolutions that address each one of these items in order. When you do your homework on something like this, invariably, as complex as this project, there's information coming in at different stages of the process that sometimes don't get included at the last minute to keep our schedules going. And one of the situations has come up that we had some preliminary traffic studies that were prepared as part of an update process that we're going through for our fee studies, and also looking, reevaluating our circulation system as a part of the pre-planning that goes into updating our general plan. In the Dowling Report, as it's referred to, in our preliminary analysis of the Dowling Report, there was some question as to whether or not a mid-area collector was necessary to be part of this plan. This collector would have crossed Highway 33, or connected with Highway 33 across the railroad track in this area here, right adjacent to the existing city boundaries. This is the Hearthstone project right here. What the general plan circulation map shows is a collector street through there. The specific plan doesn't show the connector going all the way through, and doesn't show it as a collector street. It shows it as an element of the circulation element, but it doesn't show it going across. So we basically, these two plans didn't exactly mirror each other, so the question was whether or not which was the most appropriate circulation element. And what we got in our preliminary traffic report was that we were going to have some circulation problems here on Kern Street. And perhaps this circulation element was necessary to reduce that traffic impact for development in this area.
Driscoll also.
And Driscoll, right. Going through it, and I believe you have a copy of the executive summary. If not, I have extra copies here, and anybody in the audience that would like to have a copy, I have made an extra copy of the executive summary of the final report. At any rate, I prepared a staff report reflecting the preliminary data, and with respect to that mid-area collector, and we got the final traffic report invariably the day that I finished my staff report, which basically said conclusively that we could put that collector in there, but it wouldn't make one bit of difference with respect to the rest of the circulation system. It would not enhance the circulation problems that we have identified at Kern in the future, and that other solutions were probably the only thing that was going to work, and so this was a waste of time and money. So, having found that out, I'm here to ask your permission to modify my staff report. And I'll go through these in order. First off, with respect to the general plan amendment, the area along the railroad corridor is buffered with a commercial business park kind of designation. That I think was originally planned from the perspective of trying to buffer residential development from train noise. As we've gone through and evaluated it also posed some other kinds of problems. From the standpoint of circulation, we don't have good access across there, and of course train crossings of railroad tracks are pretty difficult to achieve with Public Utility Commission rules and regulations, and so it was likely that we were going to create a traffic problem with that land use classification. The question as to the value or the benefit to the community, it would appear that our studies, and it's been backed up by Larry Mancheer's recommendation, who originally was the author of the general plan, that perhaps expanding our business park development on Stir Road made more sense than trying to shoehorn it in here between Sherman Parkway and the existing residential development along the eastern boundary of the railroad track. So the general plan amendment essentially reflects that land use classification change to take that from business park development and make it low-density residential. The second element is a continuation of your neighborhood plan, and that essentially is to provide for low-density residential development along that corridor between Sherman Parkway and your existing city boundaries, and to identify what the circulation corridors are consistent with the other plans that have been done in the area, connecting up our street and road system and continuing our circulation pattern with respect to collector streets and the arterials. The third item that we need to deal with is the pre-zoning of this area consistent with both the general plan and the specific plan. And that's attachment E as a resolution that does that. By the way, pre-zoning is done by ordinance, not by resolution. So what you have is a draft ordinance in attachment E, which is the pre-zoning. And you'll find that we haven't got legal for these pre-zonings. In fact, I just found them on my desk this morning. So the legal descriptions fit the maps and all the attachments you've got, but I will have those for you in time for posting in accordance with the publication requirements. And the last attachment, of course, is the referral document for which is attachment F, which is your referral resolution to LAFCO for requesting or approving, the city approving the annexation and giving this to LAFCO for determination and processing through the state. This is like I said, a very complicated project. You have some exhibits up that show how the project is to be developed. Your staff report is many pages long, and to keep people from going to sleep, I'm not going to go into any more detail unless you have specific questions. The project proponent is here, can show you the basic development diagram. This site does include a school site, and it also includes a continuation of the Barrington Park. So, and of course, it is the last part of the development that links this area of the city via the Sherman Parkway to Highway 33, and as I said, creates not only a major access corridor through the northern portions of the city, but it also is a utility corridor. This is where we intend to expand our sewer and water services through the balance of the west side of the city. This is, I would say, kind of one of the fundamental building blocks of the future growth of the city. So this piece of the development finishes out that piece of infrastructure development that we need, which is necessary for further growth in the city. Is there any questions?
Are there any questions for Bob first?
Bob, the collector street that you were referring to earlier, is that, if we're looking at this project site proposal, is that what's called Banff Drive?
It would be in that area. Essentially, it's Banff Drive, and it goes from the park over, and on the general plan it connects here. On the specific plan it does exactly as it's shown here. It turns north and runs parallel to the roadway, but it's Banff Drive on Banff Drive on
So then the natural exit then to that development would be out to the Sherman Parkway.
What the traffic study indicated is that this is going to be the way that people get out to Highway 33. This really has very little benefit with respect to circulation in the area.
And I can see where it wouldn't have a great impact either to Kern, if everyone's going that way.
Right. I might, there's one more little twist in this process. like in the South Newman annexation area, we had a number of property owners that were isolated and island properties. And so in order for the annexation to proceed, we had to deal with the island properties. The law absolutely does not allow us to create islands with respect to annexation. We have a piece of property in this that is not part of the development. It does not belong to the applicants. And the property owners in the audience tonight, you might say that he's not an applicant in this process. I don't know if he's hostile to the annexation or not, but his property in this little
Take the
sliver
mic
right
with
here,
you. Take the mic with you.
this piece of property right here, and it's about an acre of property. 2.7 acres, and it will be affected by the annexation, and it will be affected by the pre-zoning. It'll be pre-zoned in accordance with the general plan now as low-density residential, and it'll be annexed to the city.
Are there any other questions for Bob? Dave?
Yeah. When you list your different streets, Sherman Parkway, Barrington, Eucalyptus, Balsam, and Crow Mountain Drive, as different widths from 60 to 80 feet. Is that is 80 feet the existing Eucalyptus Avenue now, and 70 feet or 60 feet Barrington Avenue? Is that the existing widths now?
Those are the city engineer could probably answer
Okay,
that.
I was just wondering why they were varying widths.
They vary because of probably these developments that one occurred at different times in the evolution of the city's planning process.
Right.
They also have different designations on our general plan with respect to collector streets and local streets.
Okay, well, what I'm saying though is, say Barrington Avenue as it crosses the park, by the park, is that now 60 feet wide?
I'm going to turn that question over to our city engineer.
Okay.
Right now, Barrington is an 80-foot collector all the way through there, and it's going to be continuing to be an 80-foot as we extend it north.
It was listed as 60 feet here and there.
No, I don't know if it's on one of the conditions is what you're stating there.
Yeah, page 15.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to double check that, but I believe it's an 80-foot right now.
See, now you see Eucalyptus, you list 80 feet.
Right.
Barrington, you only list 60 feet, Balsam Drive, and
Okay.
Crow Mountain Drive, which doesn't exist yet, I guess.
Right. Those are all existing, and those.
But in Balsam Drive is 70 feet.
No,
so
you know.
it's a strange.
No, Barrington is 60. I'll have to go back. Yeah, Barrington is a 60-foot collector right now. I was thinking of Balsam, and that's a 70. These are all.
All right, so as long as that's what they are.
That's what they are. Yeah, that's what they are.
All right. Are there any?
And one other quick one. How many lanes actually was it decided? And I know I was at a couple of planning commission meetings, and there were Sherman Parkway. It started out to be 6 lanes. They were talking 4 lanes. How many lanes is it going to be?
4. The staff recommendation is for 4 lanes. I think our traffic study came back, said that we could probably use 4 lanes in the first quarter mile of that, and the balance of it can be developed to 2 lanes. At this point in time, I think it's staff's recommendation that we maintain a 4-lane facility to accommodate future growth, and so that's where we're at.
That's what the
and
council
this
agreed
being
upon.
a parkway, is this just 4 lanes, or will it be a divider strip between the two?
A median,
A median in there? I think?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right. Are there any other questions for our planning director or city engineer before I open the public hearing? All right. At this time, being that this is a public hearing, I will open up the public hearing and ask for any comments from the public, either proponents or opponents of this project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. At this time, I'd like... Curtis Nelson with Hearthstone Builders, I'm sorry. 1335 Main, suite number 202 here in Newman. We're here to answer any questions you might have. As Bob has said, we've pretty much gone through this project with comb and a brush. I know Mr. Mayor is in the audience this evening, and I would really like to give him a chance to speak so that we may answer his questions, and then we'll go ahead and answer any questions that the council may have.
Okay.
My name's Mark Mayer, 27934 Highway 33. I own that little piece of property, and I got a CCID that runs through that Hearthstone piece, and what are you going to do with that? Irrigation ditch. Feeds my property.
Mm-hmm. Bob?
Annexation, CCID is detached from the annexation areas. What we've done in the past is the conditions have been that all of these drainage facilities have to be placed underground and maintained and developed to CCID standards. They have told us that the properties that are detached from the district go on standby with respect to water, and it could possibly affect water delivery in the site, but they will. I was told that they would be able to maintain service for all the lands that we've annexed to today, but it would be under a different classification.
Can we get something in writing? I mean, from them?
Well, we have something in writing that basically says that the area is to be detached from CCID, and we had a meeting with them, and we've on several occasions with CCID, and they've told us verbally that they would be able to continue service, but they do not want islands of city land in their district. And apparently we have several of them now, and it's a problem to them.
Richard or Bob, if I can ask, would it be the developer's responsibility to continue that service to the property if it's determined that they do still need that service? And maybe the developer can answer that too, but I believe that is correct.
We have met with CCID. We actually did a field investigation of all the facilities in both Sherman and Hearthstone. The provision, as Bob explains, Mr. Mayor, will be detached upon annexation, as will Hearthstone. But under the conditions that CCID has imposed on this project, we will have to continue to serve with some form of service facility, pipeline ditch, the mayor property, and if water is available from CCID, he can still obtain it.
Okay. Thank you. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah, that does. I'm going to get with Bob later
Okay.
on over all this.
Right. And if I would ask Curtis as well, if, in addition to this gentleman getting with Bob, maybe you three can maybe, continue to work together that way. We want to have you continue, obviously, to get your water delivery, of course. So
We'll find a way to make it work, sir.
Right, okay. All right. Any other questions? And any other?
No, I better not.
Okay. All right, but we will definitely work with you with our planning director, and we will certainly keep you in the loop with what's going on. All right? Mike?
Michael Walker, 1335 Main Street, Hearthstone Builders. I'd just like to second what Curtis said in regards to the mayor property. As you're well aware of, on Sherman Ranch, we dealt with Manuel and Angie Gonzalez. Their property was just over 4 acres. I understand Mr. Mayor's property is just less than 3 acres. We understand that it's distress to those property owners or those island property owners, and we've always in the past dealt with them. One of the things that's been skipped over on this particular project is the need to continue some type of service to Miss Naomi Lee Rose and the Stanford University property down at the corner of Canal School and Hills Ferry Road. And also, I believe the Lucases still take some water at times, although there are different well facilities out in that area. So we're under the understanding that these people need water for their continued, whether it be crop use, normal irrigation use. Obviously, that water is much cheaper than city water. So it's definitely a positive to retain those rights. And CCID has pretty much assured us that they will continue to serve those type of property owners. Unfortunately, with the Manuel Gonzalez property out there, there is a contamination issue, and Chevron is currently working with Manuel and Angie now. We've been able to be instrumental in getting a dialogue open. They had settled a lawsuit previously with Chevron, and I believe there's going to be some dialogue now open back up to where possibly they can do something with that property. Of course, anytime that you annex a property, you know, it does create a valuation. You know, we talked about the Williamson Act cancellation, and there are some instances, in most cases, where all of a sudden the land becomes at the speculative price. Again, with all these smaller island properties, we don't ask these parties to contribute financially. We just ask that they contribute it, you know, professionally or personally, that they do respond and that they would attend meetings or meet with us, obviously on their schedules, and we try to appease them and want to make sure that their rights are kept up and beheld.
All right.
As I've stated before in public forum, you know, my family was part of the original Sooner land rush in Oklahoma, and, you know, I understand the value of property rights, and we fought for it, died on it, and, you know, tried to make a living on it. So I'm very, very sensitive to property rights, and we would gladly meet with these folks, and I've stated it on numerous public hearings. I've given my phone number. We're very easy to find, and we'll do our best. You know, 110% effort with them. There's a lot of different things that we could talk about this evening. One thing that I want to reiterate about the Hearthstone Ranch is that the California Scottish Rite Foundation is an affiliate of the Masons. And the proceeds that they receive from this property or this project will go, or their primary mission or goal is to provide assistance for children with hearing and speech impediments. They are a non-profit organization. We've worked with them as partners, or, you know, whenever we were developing the Lucas Ranch as adjoining property owners since 1988. And they've been real easy to deal with. They're very difficult to get to sometimes by phone, and they're a large organization, and they can, you know, time constraints are involved, but they're very pleased with where the project is today, and they're looking forward to receiving this income, so that, you know, it's typically not from a sale into somebody's pocket. This is actually from a point of sale back to children with these speech and hearing impediments. So that's kind of an interesting twist or wrinkle on this project, and I think it merits stating that here this evening. Farming is still being conducted on the site by DePaul Family Farms. There is a bean crop out there now. You know, farming's not as good as it used to be. We hope it turns around. We're actually partners in that farming enterprise, and I don't know, we may not get nothing out of it by the time the end of the year rolls around, but at least the property's being kept, maintained. I think ditches are being maintained. Another thing that's a different twist or wrinkle to the project, earlier this year, the Scottish Rites Foundation and we as the owner or buyer were notified by the California Northern Railroad that they were no longer acknowledging private crossings. And we have two on this project. One occurs at where the DePaul family, or Ron DePaul family, lives, and then the other one is down near Mr. Mayer and the, I'm not for sure what the brand name of the filling station or gas station is, but at that location. And we really had to do some scrambling. I mean, we had to go back and do some title search, and we came up with, you know, the needle in the haystack, and that is a deed to that crossing. So we actually have a deeded crossing at that point, and they're very interested in working with us to remove that from a private crossing and develop it into a public crossing further north where the DePaul, where Jensen Road crosses. So it's basically a blanket letter by their attorneys and agents representing their properties to try to eliminate. As we know, they've done all this reconstruction on this rail line. They've not done it to run a couple of trains up and down the track. you're not going to spend that kind of money to do that. And with insurance, with liability, with crossings, private crossings are very dangerous. We deal with them in the Midwest all the time, year after year. Hay truck drivers are killed, children are killed. You know, one thing after another happens on private crossings. They prefer to have public crossings where they can be lit, where they can be guarded, where they can be controlled. So their attorneys in California Northern is very interested in working with the city and the landowner proponent to resolve the private crossing issues. The DePaul Family Farms is a portion of this project. Ron and Phil are not here tonight. They've been here a long time. We're glad to have them as parties to this. We're glad that Mr. Mayor and his family are here to speak up. You know, it's important to speak out for your rights. We hope that the city, and we know from the past dealings with the city that you'll do your best, and I'm sure that you know from our reputation that we'll do our best. We've completed noise studies. We went through all the engineering studies. You know, we basically are in agreement with city staff. There's a couple of things in the conditions that we want to clean up a little bit, some language. You know, we've learned from past experience at the Lucas Ranch subdivision that, you know, sometimes the city manager or the mayor or the city engineer or the city attorney, they're there at the point of sale or at the point of the DA or the development agreement, but sometimes 8, 10, 12 years, 15 years out, all the players have changed. We think it's very crucial and important, starting with Sherman Ranch and in the future, to make sure that there's no gray area, that everything's understood. It protects the property rights of the owner, it protects the property rights of the city. Reimbursement schedules, as someone mentioned about the Parkway and the Sherman Parkway, you're putting in a tremendous amount of infrastructure, and that's a lot of dollars. And basically, it provides some circulation for our property, but it basically sets up development for your industrial uses, your commercial uses, your link to offset some of the traffic off Highway 33, and also to create some future commercial development along Highway 33 all the way up to Stir Road. We've also just, you know, been working on some new studies on Stir Avenue. We've had a couple of large commercial or industrial users that have taken a look at Newman as possible employment bases and operations. And so far with the two parties that we've met with and negotiated with, they tend to like Stir Road and that corridor much better than they do bringing their truck traffic down Highway 33 and then making crossings. Railroad crossings are a major concern to truck trailer traffic. They also don't want to create a noise impact. And there's so many other things we could talk about. I know in the past affordable housing has been an issue. I mean, Newman is about the last bastion within 2 hours of San Francisco that's still affordable, that still offers community. You know, during the Planning Commission, one of the members asked, you know, well, what was unique about Sherman or Hearthstone? And I said, well, you know, all of a sudden we're getting into too many details. It's not the project itself. It's the people that move to Newman, or it is the buyer or the consumer of that unit that makes Newman unique. And we've all seen with the theater and youth sports and some of the other things that are going on, that Newman really has a good thing going. They have a lot of involvement, a lot of community support, and that's what makes any project unique. And with that, we've tried to restore the quality of life. If you took the zoning standards or unit standards out of the general plan, my goodness, you could build 800 or close to 800 units alone on Hearthstone Ranch. I mean, that's just not going to fly. That's not good development. It'd be very rare that you'll see a proponent of development stand in front and say, hey, we always want more units. You know, we want more than what the envelope. And we're saying that, you know, that you need about a third of that, that you need large lots, that you need the ability to have a single-story home, that you need the ability to have 3-car garages, that people need to have the ability to come home and unwind, because let's face it, most of them are commuters or early retirees or someone that sees themselves within 4 to 5 to 6 years or 10 years, being able to retire to a sense of normalcy. If anybody's been in the Bay Area recently, there's nothing normal about that. And Newman offers some peace of mind once you get here. Hopefully, you know, businesses downtown will improve and things will get better. But in the interim, basically people that move here that have working families are commuting out of Newman. And we're also trying to work on that. Right now, about 138,000 probably out there for a single-family residence. You know, we're asked that whenever I put my name out there or say, hey, give us a call. You know, the only interest that we get are people stopping in asking when they can buy a home, or they're tired of remodeling their home over here, or they're tired of living over there. They've outgrown the home that they bought initially. When are these homes going to be ready? And that makes it feel like you're doing something right. About 138,000 probably starting, and basically your income combined would need to be about $42,000, $43,000 at the current interest rates to afford that home. And that means that 44.5% of the population can afford that home. So I think if you check those numbers against other California cities, that's very high on the affordability index.
Okay. Are there,
Pardon me.
how much longer were you gonna, can we wrap this up?
Oh, I don't know. I could talk for hours and hours. I mean, we could go on and continue it. I guess if you're telling me to set my big butt down and shut up, I will. You know, or call it a wrap. You know, we've got a school site, and we've got a continuation of a park. So
I'll just say it was a very good presentation.
okay. We'll answer any questions, work with whoever, and we thank you again.
Okay.
And thank the staff
Okay.
also.
Is there any other comments from the public? Any opponents or proponents? I want to thank our speakers here on their presentations and bring it back to the council for any further comments or questions. Do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me close the public hearing first and ask for comments or questions. I actually only had one question on this thing. We're going to take these one at a time here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But on the number 5, with the resolution approving the annexation proposal for and referring this matter to LAFCO, I had the opportunity today. What's that?
I just have one question to Bob Borcher.
Go ahead.
The Sherman Parkway wasn't part of it really, but we're going to add that into it to make sure it goes all the way through.
In what regard? It's part of the project. It's,
Yeah,
it's
right.
part of the
Part of
subdivision
it.
development.
Right.
Well, I have attached attachment A in your staff report is the Planning Commission staff report and resolution setting the approval of the subdivision. I attached that for information. And you've had copies of these applications and the processes that have gone on with the Planning Commission, and I just put that in the staff report for your information. You don't have to take action on that.
Right.
But the Sherman Parkway is provided for in there, and I believe that the way we've written those findings is that they're cross-connected, so that the projects are linked to make sure these facilities go forward.
Well, I was just reading, as a result, staff is recommending that provisions in the project development specific plan be revised to reflect.
Okay, that's my. I have dog-eared all my pages, and this is the issue with respect to the mid section. And what I'd like to do is maybe when we get into the one resolution that deals with the specific plan, where I'd asked that it be revised to reflect that circulation system, I've got some suggestions in terms of how we change that resolution, if the council will allow me. But do we want to do that now, or do we want to take these on in order?
Well, let me.
And the mayor had a question.
Yeah, let me ask my question first, and it's on the 5th item, and then we'll see how we're going to do this. With regards to this referring this matter to LAFCO, for those of us who were there at the LAFCO meeting last 2 times, we took a while to get the LAFCO commission to finally speak in favor of this. I spoke to one of the LAFCO public members today who was actually our biggest proponent, and his last meeting is going to be in August. He's going to not be the public member. His term expires, and like I said, as we all remember, the fellow who was the alternate wasn't as big on development. So I just want to make sure. I just want to make perfectly sure that this thing goes to LAFCO for their meeting on the 27th, and if there are any delays or anything like that, that those things get worked out.
27th of August?
Yeah.
I don't believe we can meet that timeline.
LAFCO
LAFCO
basically-
requirements require it to be in, what is it, 5 weeks prior, Bob?
They usually,
They get 7 weeks prior,
5 to
thank
7
you.
weeks.
Yeah, so we've missed that date. We can't make the August meeting. All right. And that 7 weeks is set in stone over there? With LAFCO, yes. Yeah, they're
well,
pretty-
it's basically controlled by staff, and if you know, we can do whatever we can to try to assist staff to move this thing along, but
All right. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to...
their deadlines,
No,
they,
I just want
it
to. I
depends
just
on
want
their
to make
workload.
sure, as far as I just want to make sure, as far as there not being delays, and get this to them as soon as possible.
LAFCO is probably going to take first off, if you notice that this is a little different from other LAFCO resolutions, we're changing our sphere. So this is going to be another policy issue. We feel that that's a justifiable recommendation, and like I said, I'd get into that when we get to that resolution.
Okay.
So we're actually going to be amending our sphere of influence as part of this process. The primary and secondary sphere boundary go through this project. And we've cleared it with staff, and they feel comfortable with it because of the infrastructure issues involved here, because of the land ownership pattern, and nobody seems to be quite clear why we have a little peninsula of secondary sphere that projects into that area, but somehow it got adopted as our primary sphere. So there's going to be some issues here that I don't believe LAFCO is going to fast track.
Okay. All right.
And we've tried to deal with them, in our meetings with LAFCO staff, and we dealt with it in the resolutions, but
Okay. Well, we'll just do our best.
I'll do my best.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions for Bob before we start taking these items one at a time? No. Okay. Item 7B, item 1, is to approve the finding that no significant adverse environmental impact is expected to result from project implementation, and that a negative declaration is to be filed for the project in accordance with CEQA. Can we have some direction on that?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Item 2, this is resolution number 2000, next to number, approving the general plan amendment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Item 3, resolution number 2000, next to number, conditionally approving the Newman specific plan amendment.
On page 25, if I might, Mr. Chairman, there's 2 whereases that deal with that mid block thing. The last 2, or the 5th and the 6th whereas on that page 25, they need to be removed. And the language for council does hereby resolve on the second line, with the exception of traffic and circulation, would be deleted, and it would read in whole: the City of Newman Neighborhood Specific Plan Amendment proposal, as shown on Exhibit A of this resolution, is found to be consistent with the policies and standards of the city's general plan, and therefore the council approves the amendment. That would be the way the language would read entirely. And the conditions on page 26, 1, 2, and 3 would be deleted. Those conditions dealt with amending this specific plan to incorporate that circulation element. And as I said, based on the review of the traffic engineer and their recommendations, staff feels that condition is no longer necessary. And I've discussed this matter with our engineer and our city manager. There's concurrence there.
Okay. All right. Any other further questions on that third item? Okay. If not, can we get some direction on item 3?
Okay, I make a motion that we approve Council Resolution 2000, next number, attachment D, conditionally approving Newman specific plan amendment as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Item 4, introduce ordinance number 2000, next to number, pre-zoning the project area to low-density residential R1 in public site?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Item number 5, this approve resolution number 2000 next to number approving the annexation proposal for the project area and referring the matter to LAFCO.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. I want to thank you. I want to thank our staff, and I want to thank our planning commission for all the hard work that they've all done. I want to thank the proponents of the project, and I hope we all continue to work together on this. as this goes forward.
Just for the record, we have requested things and they've been submitted timely, and this has been a good group to work with, and the city staff has been putting it all on the line to make this thing happen in a rapid fashion. I think it was a good effort. I think there's a major piece of the city's infrastructure going to be developed as part of this project, and I think that I think everybody's going to be happy with the product.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8, this is a consent calendar. Item A is approval of warrants. Item B is approval of the minutes of the July 11th, 2000 regular meeting. Item C is to adopt resolution number 2000 next number, a resolution requesting that the Board of Supervisors of Stanislaus County consolidate the City of Newman general municipal election to be held November 7th, 2000, with the regular presidential election to be held the same date. D is to authorize purchase of 2 new soccer goals for a cost of $1,900. Item E is to approve agreement with the West Side Niners for use of Barrington Park for practice. Are there any questions on any of those? Anything you'd like to see pulled?
I'd like to pull item 8D.
Okay. Any others? All right.
I move that we approve consent calendar A, B, C, and E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Item D, Cleve?
Yeah, any questions? I'll try to answer on that.
I have nothing against this, passing this, but I was just questioning, are these goals, could we have them made locally or something for about the same price or something rather than purchase them? They're basically just metal pipe bent with a net in them.
Yeah, they're aluminum tubing is
Yeah.
what they're made of to keep them lightweight, because they are portable and they're made to come apart for storing when they're not
Yeah.
being used and stuff. I suppose I could check into it and find out if there's someone. I'm sure there's someone that can make them if I could get the design and the guidelines of how to do it.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to see that if we get them locally, if not, why?
Okay.
I'd be happy to check into it if I can find someone that, you know.
All right.
Are you saying locally here in town? in
If
Newman?
possible, yeah.
Okay.
We have some shops over on the other side of town, I think.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
And
yeah,
these
I'll-
goals aren't so pressing to the point where if we wait a couple weeks to...
Well, hopefully not. We're proposed to start on August 26th.
Oh,
So
I
I
see.
do need to try and have them by that date. So that's the only thing. But I can take a week to check into it and see what I can find. I'll be happy to do that.
Aren't we having a meeting next week too? Or?
Yes, we're probably going to schedule that meeting for August 1st rather than the second week in order to accommodate some things. So.
That'll still give you time if we can't find something locally to get this.
Sure. So you'd like me to bring this back to you next week on the
Yeah,
1st?
Yeah, I'm just wondering where they're coming from. Where are they?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I'll be honest with you. The way I did this, I got some recommendations, and it's a company called Goal. I can see it. Goal something. But they specialize in this type of equipment, and they're the ones that I was recommended to look at this. And I actually got the quotes from them from their catalog and off the internet.
And they guarantee delivery?
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, depending on what happens at the meeting, if we have one next week or how lengthy the meeting is, how soon can you find out? I mean, I'm almost thinking that we approve this contingent upon, or we do something where you look into it. If there's nothing we can do other than that, then, that way we don't have to keep coming back and, you know, I mean, I think we have enough confidence in you to find something. If you don't, then
Yeah, I'm just
whatever.
afraid that, you know, especially if
could-
it's coming
yeah.
from somewhere far away, there may be a problem
Yeah.
with delivery if we wait too long.
It could be. Yeah. I haven't got an estimate on what the delivery time would be on
Yeah.
that, but
Let's go ahead then and do that. Well,
subject to.
yeah, subject to your, if you can
Attempt
find
to-
something,
okay.
you know,
Yeah,
the next day or
sure.
so, fine. If not,
We'll just approve this subject to up
Okay.
to this 1900, and if you find something else that you think would work out better, then we'll go
Okay.
ahead and
Yeah.
authorize.
Sure,
you to
well,
do
we'll just authorize Cleve to
that. Yeah,
do what he thinks right.
okay.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve item 8D contingent to Cleve checking into some local supplier for this.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Thank you, Dave. Item 9, this is 9A, report on a notice to abate public nuisance at 1603 West Avenue. Ernie? You
You're
or
on,
Cleve?
Ernie.
Somebody?
Yeah, just quickly, Councilmember Reed requested that this be back on the agenda. It was brought up, you recall, at the last meeting, a report given. And so I asked Ernie to provide some things. I believe he's provided you with a memo that you have, that was handed out tonight on this issue. And so I'll let Ernie explain what his conversation has been and what the plan is, and then we'll bring it back to the council for a recommendation or more action if you'd like. Something like that.
Oh, yes, good evening, Mayor, council members. As Cleve stated, this is an abatement issue that the council authorized back in May 23rd. When I contacted Mr. Sequeira, he immediately cleaned up his property. He abated the weeds, except for a huge brush pile that was on his property. He was having problems trying to find some contractor to come and do it at a reasonable rate, and also at that time he had told me that he was going to have it abated by the 31st of May. What happened was I believe that the disposal area all of a sudden wasn't available for him any longer. So he came back to me and requested additional time, but he couldn't give me a time frame or deadline. I contacted him last week, well after the last council meeting when this issue was brought up by Councilman Reed. And at that time he told me that he would be getting back to me. He called me last week and he said that he had talked to a contractor that had promised him that he would be able to remove the brush pile from the premises by the 14th of August. I called the owner of Stomar Equipment, which is Randy Corgett, and he returned a phone call to me last Friday stating that yes, this was correct, and that if possible, you might even have it done this week. This afternoon, when I was out at the treatment plant, I spoke to Lance Perry, the treatment plant operator. Stoltmar Equipment has been doing some work for us out at the treatment plant. He stated that one of the owners told him that they were going to begin removing this brush pile from this property by Thursday morning. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, it's been going on about 3 months, and if it were just a plain pile of brush, it looks ugly, but it's not that important. But it's so close to these fences for the subdivision back there. In case of a fire, it would just probably take out at least 2 or 3 houses. So if they can do this by Thursday, as he says, I would agree with that. But if not, I still think that we ought to go in and do it ourselves and get it out of there somehow or other. Whether we hire a contractor to shred it up or to whatever, but it's just been going on too long now. It should have been taken care of back in May.
Now, he's saying this thing will be done by Thursday?
He would start on Thursday morning.
Because we have another meeting, like we just talked about a minute ago, on Tuesday, right? So, I suspect that we could consider what Councilmember Reed said here, and obviously if this thing's not done by Tuesday, to have something to us that we proceed with abatement. But, you know, between now and Thursday, they've either got it cleaned up, or at our next meeting, we authorize abate, or subject to, you know, they get an abatement notice, you know, where we proceed with abatement if they haven't done it by Thursday.
You have given us the authority to proceed by abatement back on the 23rd of May. I talked to the fire chief, Melsus, about this issue, and I asked him repeatedly if he considered this a fire hazard, a threat to the homes, or if he was concerned in any way whatsoever. And he stated that he didn't feel it was any issue, that it was far enough away from those homes, from the fences. And when he had stated that to me, then I felt that I would be able to work a little bit closer with the man, because, you know, this is a big cost issue. You know, it's a lot of money. And I had no reason to doubt Mr. Sequeira when he said, yes, I will be taking care of it, especially after he disced up that huge lot of his. And this is one of the reasons why I hadn't been going to the city manager. I would have discussed this with the city manager and said, hey, this has to be done immediately. If we get any repercussions back from the property owner because of this huge amount, and that it had to be done immediately, I would have done so. But after the fire chief reassured me that it wouldn't, and especially since he called me last week saying that yes, it was going to be abated, I just agreed to give him the additional time.
Well, we have a timeline, so I suspect that we can just wait and see if they follow it. Yeah. Are there any other?
As I understand it, because we need to communicate back to him, I understand from the council is if it is not removed by your meeting basically next Tuesday on the 1st, you would like us to proceed with abating it.
Not necessarily me. I don't care. I'd just soon let Ernie take care of it and bring it to fruition, since there's no real hazard or anything, so.
Ernie, you've been working close with them. We're having our meeting on Tuesday. When we have the items from the staff at our next meeting, then you'll address it, right?
Yep. I will give him a phone call immediately tomorrow morning, and I will follow that up with a letter letting him know what the council's direction is, and if he doesn't abate it by then, then we'll look to do another course of action.
Right. Okay. Tom, I'd probably recommend that we have a motion to that effect to proceed in that direction, if that's all right with the council.
Okay. If there are no other questions, are there any other questions down here? No? Can we have some direction to that effect? Proceeding with that we'll go forward with abatement.
Well, let's see. I guess I would move that we revisit this issue at our next meeting on August 1st, and if no apparent action has been taken, that we move forward with abatement action.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4 to... Did you say aye? Oh. Motion passes 3-0 with 1 abstaining and 1 absent. All right. Item 9B. Thank you, Ernie. Item 9B, review proposed costs for remodel and startup costs for teen center.
I was thinking we were all
done. This is just a quick item. I have to admit that these costs have not been firmed up. These are basically just from talking to a few people. I think they are in the ballpark, and it's an example of what we want to do. What I am going to try to do with this, you can see where the costs have come in at, is try to get 2 years of personnel time out of this $100,000. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to work that. I need to, work out some more details on that, because I believe that this $100,000 that we got from the state has to be spent this year, prior to June 30th. So I need to figure out how that can be worked out under a possible contract or something to make that work. But anyway, this is examples of what the money that we have available and the projects that I'm proposing to do with the money. If there's any questions or additions, changes, deletions, whatever, I'm open to look at those.
Are there any comments on this? Any questions for Cleve? No. The only thing I would say is what you just said a minute ago with regards to that $100,000. Obviously, we're looking at 111 for the first year, and making all these improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And then is there, because I know we had talked about those Rotary funds. I know they're kind of.
Those will be the first ones spent.
They're expecting us to do something with that. Yeah. So, you know, it seems to me, looking at the 100 from the state and the 15 for Rotary, you know, that pretty much funds the first year entirely with 3,800 left over.
Not using this new fund. Yeah.
And the next thing I would like to see us do, because this pretty much, after we're done with these windows and these bathrooms and this landscaping and everything else that's here, I think we're, you know, in combination with that skate park right next to it and everything else, I think we're going to have a pretty nice setup over there by that ball field. So I guess at the next meeting, Cleve, are we going to have the timeline?
Yeah, I can put something together.
And the reason
I don't know if I'll make it by your next meeting.
Right. Well, the reason I asked that before the end of the year anyway is just because I'm not sure what additional things that the state, you know, we want to get it spent, obviously,
right.
But I'm just not sure what additional requirements they have, and if at some time they want a timeline or want to know when the money's spent or something, that way at least we have some.
Well, yeah, we want to move with this immediately, so because, you know, if we are going to get all this done and spend that money like we need to get going on it. So.
Okay.
Just a couple things that, you know, I just want to toss out for consideration. Sure. You know, considering especially the things that we're going to have in the building, that maybe we want to consider some sort of security system be installed. And then also maybe work with PG&E on any kind of energy efficient items that might be put in. Sure. Perhaps there are rebates available, or you know, things that might save us, the city, a lot of money down the road.
I had talked to them once quite a while back about the windows, because I know sometimes there are funds for those. Mm-hmm. At that time, I believe they told me there weren't, but I know they do have new programs starting up all the time. So yeah, I'll check again on that.
So.
All right. So we'll have if not at the next meeting, obviously we'll at the second.
The second meeting in August is what I would shoot for to have that to you.
All right. So we'll have a timeline and we can get rolling on it.
Yeah, I'll try to, you know, make these figures a little bit more solid. I don't need any action on this. This is just information.
And then we'll get that security system thrown in there as well.
Sure. Yeah, that won't be a big item.
All right. Okay. No motion required on this, so we will. That's the end of regular business. Item 10. These are items from the city manager, Cleve.
Just one quick item that I want to, I guess, give the council a heads up on. And many of you may be aware of this. We've been contacted by the Historical Society concerning, I believe it's the historical Oriskimba Schoolhouse, which is located up in the hills above I-5 on Oriskimba Creek. It's actually an old schoolhouse that was used a long time ago, and then it was turned into a ranch house and actually moved to the location where it is now. They can get that. They would like to get it and restore it. Originally they came to the city to ask if, you know, if they were able to get the money to move it and restore it, etc., if we would find a place for it. And their original intention was to locate that as an additional museum, put more articles in it and have it as a museum. I talked to them about that. My concern was that we have a hard time keeping our museum open now as far as staffing and keeping that going, and I had a concern about having another building to maintain and keep up as a museum. But I talked to them a little bit the other day. As you know, we are looking at building this teen center, and it's created a little bit of a problem in doing the teen center with the fact that we have a preschool located in that building that we want to use as a teen center. I've had some initial discussions with the Historic Society, and also just initially with Janet Perry, who is the director of the preschool, about being able to bring that building down here, restore it, and put it back into place similar to a schoolhouse, and see if it may work out as a building for the preschool to use, and have them move into that building. The site that I'm looking at is at Densmore Park, or right next to the library, to locate that, which they were also in favor of, because that is a previous school site also that fits in with the history. I've looked at probably immediately north of the library, because that's an area that would not infringe upon the use of that with athletic fields and et cetera. Could probably be joint use, the parking area there of the library, in addition with additional parking on the street. So just an informational item that will be coming back to you probably in the near future, and maybe a solution to look at. The building would continue to be owned by the Historical Society. They would lease it to the preschool, the same as we are leasing the youth center to them now, and could use the funds to help offset the costs of maintenance and utilities on the building. So,
Do you know the approximate size of the building, or?
I've been given a couple of numbers, and I'm trying to get that right now. They've given me pictures. I believe it's something like 40 by 60 or something like that. So it is smaller than the youth center. But as we reviewed that, we thought that probably the preschool has plenty of room in the youth center with what they're using now, and that they can probably get by with less than what they have now.
And I think it could be brought up to code.
Well, it would have to be, sure. Yeah.
Well, not only that, we've got all of our stuff in there as well. You know, I mean, and it's configured. You know, they're in there, but with our configurations. So maybe it would not having our stuff in there would maybe, you know, they'd be more advantageous for them. So, okay. Anything else?
I believe that's all I have tonight.
All right. Council.
Oh, thank you. The council meeting, just a reminder, what we're doing, two reasons for this. We are proposing to have our council meeting in August, on August 1st, which is 1 week from tonight, rather than on August 8th. Those are the correct dates, I think, Judy. The first reason, and foremost in that, is that in order to provide support and what is necessary for the school bond, if they decide to, the school needs to take final action on August 7th, which is prior to our August 8th date, and so we wanted to have a meeting prior to that to make recommendations and give the information to them. The other reason that which is not necessary, but I'm planning on being out of town the following week, and so this would work better for that also. But the main item will be relating to the school. There will be some other items on that August 1st date, but that will be the main item. So.
And then would the next meeting be on the 15th or
22nd?
22nd?
Regular 22nd, yeah. Okay. So that one won't change.
Great. All right. Anything else, Cleve?
That's all.
Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Number one, the parking lot over there where the chiropractor veterinarian are, those planters have never been filled with plants and flowers and like that. Whatever happened? I mean, how did we let that get in there without having them finish
Good
it?
question. I understand there's no water to that. Isn't that correct, Ernie? There is There isn't?
There isn't any when we...
Thank you.
There isn't any water to that front portion where that concrete is, but when we developed that back parking lot, we extended a conduit through the back so that they can...
So they can hook onto that.
They can hook onto it.
Let me bring back a report to you. There's some things that are going to be happening there.
I know.
It's been proposed that actually the old Newman Travel Building, the white building that is there right next to the parking lot, that's actually going to be torn down and in the interim be used as parking also, and it added to that parking lot. And we've had some preliminary plans drawn that we've looked at and presented to them because we were concerned with what was going to happen with that and how it would work with our streetscape if new entrances needed to be designed or whatever in order to make those parking lots work. So we had a drawing drawn up, and we've shown to the, it's actually owned by Dr. Kinga now, and a design that will work for that, and it will include planters, and we will make sure that they are actually planted when that is done. So
The existing planters will be irrigated by when the streetscape is done anyway, won't they?
in that parking lot?
Yeah.
Well, those existing planters will go away when the new parking lot is done. So, because there will actually be cars pulling over and parking over in that area. So those will be done away with. And new planters is a new design for that parking lot.
Number two, on my daily walk, I was going past the park, and I saw a couple ladies picking up trash, in the park, and that set something off in that, along the highways, you see the Adopt a Highway where the different clubs and stuff go out and pick up the trash and everything. Why can't we have an Adopt a Park and let our citizens help us, to keep this city beautiful and give them some pride in this community? So what I'd like to do is give it to Cleve to come up with some kind of a program for Adopt a Park. It's to save the city money, and besides that, it gives the people pride in taking and helping their community to be a better place.
Yeah, we can do that. I talked to Tom previously about this. I know that the city of Tracy has a program similar to that, and I will get some information and see what we can put together.
Yeah, but they only have to go out maybe once a week or whatever, once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Number 3?
That's it.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Radford?
Well, the only thing I was going to mention, and I'm sure David was going to mention it, and Mayor Marquez, is to remind everyone to be there on Saturday night for the big lighting dedication. It's going to be great. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Reed?
Just one, Ernie, there was one thing. There's a street sign missing at Barrington and Driscoll. You don't have to get up.
Okay.
The street identification sign at Barrington and Driscoll, I noticed the other day when I drove by, was missing on the southeast corner.
Okay. Somebody's home.
Yeah, right behind you. And of course, like Sheila said, the theater lighting, it's going to be a big party, so everybody come down and enjoy themselves.
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Naboa, 940 Fresno Street. One other thing regarding street signs, I noticed that and I don't know if this has been taken care of because it was about a week or so ago, the corner of Fresno and R Street, I believe. And when I came up to the stop sign there, I looked for the street sign. You can't see it because the tree, which is on the southeast corner, is completely covered that sign. So you might take a look and see, because I'm kind of looking around, is this our street? Couldn't find it. And so you might look at that and see if it's been trimmed or not.
You got lost?
I got lost in Newman.
Thank you, Bob. I have a couple items tonight, and first of all, I know in recent weeks we had seen in the newspaper about about some of the problems that was going on with regards to dumping the cardboard boxes and so forth. And I just want to, I'm not sure if everybody's seen the memo or not, but I want to thank Kelly Hislop and Steve Sorensen from Precision, who have graciously come forward to allow Mr. Reeves to use their, correct me if I'm wrong, use their dumpster, and I know they've been generous with the donation as well, I believe. So I just want to let the council, unless they weren't all aware that that's been resolved. And I want to thank them again for that. Also, one of the things, and Cleve and I talked briefly about it, and it kind of goes along the lines of what Tom was mentioning a little while ago. You know, and I know they've been doing a lot of work on those railroads, but you know, if you look down those railroads, each direction, it's a mess along those railroad lines. I mean, there's poles, there's garbage, there's everything. It's filthy.
I mean, absolutely filthy. If you go over any of these railroad crossings and look north or south, I mean, there's just junk all over the place. And I think we need, I don't know who the heck we contact on that, but, you know, we appreciate the improvements that they've made, but we'd like for them to pick up the stuff that they left there. So if we could, I'd really like to see us get on that immediately, because that just is a mess. The other thing that I'd like to see us take a look at, and I know we had talked about this a long time ago, was, and as we're working with the Historical Society and the museum, and as we're going through this parking in the back while we're going through this streetscape, can we get in contact with the schools again as far as that equipment back there? I know we had talked about possibly doing some type of community project with the school to try and clean up that area back there, because, you know, it's a shame that farm equipment is really old back there, but, you know, if you look back behind the museum, it just seems like that whole area is in bad shape. But if we could maybe contact the school district again and see if we can't make some improvements back. Right. And I talked to Mr. Salinas about it briefly, and he said he'd maybe talk to one of the departments there at the school and see if they couldn't do some type of project through FFA possibly. But yeah, you know, it's a real shame that equipment back there is just getting older and older, and, you know, the rains are you know, just making that equipment look worse and worse every year. And you know, and Bob remembers, you know, when our previous city engineer was here, we had talked about a cover, gosh, probably 5 years ago, and you know, that equipment's just getting worse and worse.
Somebody had done a design for a pole barn or something.
Yeah, we do have the design.
Oh, yeah, okay.
DVI?
Yeah. You know, it's a real shame, because you've got that equipment that's been there, but gosh, every year it's just looking worse and worse and worse. And you know, and you know, and you drive past it, and you just the weeds and everything else, it looks terrible. And you know, gosh, I would just hate to see us in another 5 years saying, you know, that equipment has just gotten, you know, even worse yet, and it's just going to continue to look worse. So, you know, a long time, and all I'm saying is, if we want to contact the school district again, let's do something on that. And, you know, I know we got these other projects, but if we could get something back within the next month and a half at least, and at least get a report, you know, and maybe bring back that pole design, you know, again, to take another look or something. But let's do something on that. Anyway, with that, I have nothing else tonight, and we'll take about a 2-minute break. We'll go into closed session, which will be conference with a labor negotiator under Governmental Code 54957.6, A, miscellaneous bargaining unit, and B, police officers and sergeant bargaining unit. So I will ask for about a 2-minute break.